Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon. And while you're there, go ahead and like, rate, review, subscribe, do whatever you want, and then head on over to the Facebook group or Twitter account and join in the discussion, guys. Don't forget dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. If you have a question or a topic you want me to talk about here on the show, head on over to the Gmail account and get that going. Well, hello everyone. It is a very cloudy and dreary looking Tuesday here in Austin, Texas. I was going to go outside and actually do some yard work, but from the forecast, it's going to start pouring down rain any minute now, so I'm probably going to hold off on that. Not quite sure what I'm going to do, but it did give me the excuse to come in and do a show. I didn't do any last week, mainly because I was busy doing other things. But I'm back here, of course. A lot of good stuff I could talk about, but of course, I got one thing particular I'm going to talk about today. And no, it's not Sonic the Hedgehog. I haven't seen the film yet. I got my ticket for tonight to go see the movie. I'm excited about it because I am a Sonic the Hedgehog fan. Grew up playing the video game, so I'm going to go see that tonight. I kind of got a minor spoiler the other day from my wife, who was talking about it because my niece and my nephew and my in-laws went and saw it last night. My wife was mentioning what they liked about the movie, kind of spoiled a little thing for me, so I'm a little upset about that, but I'm still excited to go see it, still going to check it out. I'm not expecting Oscar caliber film. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is a little story that came out last week, and it is this. So, according to Entertainment Weekly, Paul Dini and Alan Burnett, as well as Batman Adventures comic writer Ty Templeton, are returning to bring the world of Batman the Animated Series in a 6-issue miniseries arriving in April called Batman the Adventure Continues. Now, this is going to be a continuation of the Batman Animated Series world that started back in 1992, produced by Bruce Timm, Dan Reba, several others. Like I said, Paul Dini was in there, who did a lot of the writing for the show. This is interesting because they're going to do something that wasn't touched upon in the animated series, nor any of the following series that I'll talk about here in just a minute. Said, quote, "We'd gone from Dick Grayson to Tim Drake, and we had just left out Jason," Dini said. "What we're doing with this is looking at this as a chance to go back and actually acknowledge that was a part of the animated Batman's history. For the first time, we're going to see that story, and we're going to see what happened in the relationship. So it's our chance to not only do Jason Todd, but also the Red Hood. There are other characters like Azrael, who were popular in the comics around that time, and Deathstroke, who we never used in the animated series. We're kicking off the Bruce-Lex relationship in a semi-sequel to the World's Finest Batman-Superman crossover because the events of that are touched on. Where did that leave Bruce and Lex after they were busted by Batman and Superman? It's interesting to see the little duel that goes on between them." And you can hop on to the Dayspring Discussions Facebook group or Twitter account. Find the link on comicbookresources.com. You got pictures. One of them is a really cool one of Batman, Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, done by an artist, I think Dan Mora is what it says at the bottom, but that's a really cool artist rendition, as well as a couple of pages from the upcoming comic book series. One of them has Lex in his patented robot green outfit. You can't tell it's green because it's not colored in, but he's choking out Batman there. So yes, I am excited for this. Batman the Animated Series, along with the following series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, Batman Beyond, they're all part of that shared animated universe that kicked off with Batman back in 1992. To be honest, everyone knows I'm more of a Superman fan than a Batman fan. But back in the day, I think the animated series, the Batman animated series, was the better quality series. Now, I watch quite a bit of the Superman animated series, but the Batman one, I think quality-wise, is still better. I watched quite a bit of the Justice League. Batman Beyond is one of those ones where I enjoy it. I think it's really cool. But honestly, I've read more of the Batman Beyond comics than I've seen of actual episodes of the series. I always said there's a cool little thing you could do as far as a Batman Beyond trilogy where you could watch the first couple episodes, which is kind of the origin, go watch the animated movie Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, and then jump to that Justice League episode, Epilogue, where Terry finds out kind of the truth about how and why he got to become Batman. It's a little trilogy there, but this is kind of the first shared comic book universe as well. I mean, forget the MCU, forget the Arrowverse. Back in the 90s, Bruce Timm and his guys brought us, 4 animated series that crossed over between each other. Granted, they were usually around different times, but, you could tell if you watched them, they all intersected and were all related to each other. So again, it was our first shared comic book television universe. And the Batman comics that were based off the animated series in particular, I collected. Started off, you had the Batman Adventures, and then it changed to the Batman and Robin Adventures because the show changed to the Adventures of Batman and Robin. Then you had Batman Adventures The Lost Years, which is one that I remember very fondly because when the show changed from, I think it was Batman the Animated Series to Batman Gotham Knights, I believe was the name of it. I'll have to double check that. You jumped ahead to where Dick Grayson, who was Robin in the animated series, had become Nightwing, and there was a new Robin, Tim Drake. And this kind of 5-issue miniseries kind of described what happened in between those two series. Book 1 was about Dick Grayson quitting as Robin. Book 2 was a conclusion of that, and Batgirl coming into the group. Book 3 was Dick becoming Nightwing. Book 4 was Tim Drake. And then book 5 was actually Dick Grayson coming back and kind of concluding everything where they actually became a 4-person team, which is what we see in that second Batman animated series. They've gone on since and kind of told some of those stories. You go back and you get the Tim Drake origin story. You get the story of how Dick Grayson quit being Robin and how Batgirl joined the group. They never did the origin of Nightwing and how that all came to be, but that's fine. Like I said, I just remember the Lost Years. I really enjoyed that series because it did fill in the gaps between the two animated series. And I enjoyed all these animated series. Like I said, Batman Beyond probably my least favorite of them. I still go back. I rewatch episodes of Batman the Animated Series. I did so just 2 days ago with my daughter. Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings, we're both home. So if I want to watch TV, I'll put on some cartoon I try to get her to watch, whether it's Superman, Justice League, something like that. But I put on some episodes of Batman with Harley Quinn featured because she does know Harley Quinn. She kind of likes Harley Quinn. So I featured some of that, and she wanted to keep watching. So I'll take that as a parenting win, however I can get it. Superman the Animated Series, of course, being a Superman fan, I'm more of a fan of that now. But I've been slowly kind of going through some of those episodes recently. And Justice League, there are several episodes that I think are great. The season 3 finale of Justice League International, Justice League Unlimited, got that wrong. Technically, it's the end of the first season, but I count Justice League as all as one, whether it's the Justice League or Justice League Unlimited. Either way, it's the one where the gang get together and they face down Brainiac and Lex, and it's a really good 4 or 5 part story arc. Again, just really great storytelling, and I think these animated series are still kind of the pinnacle of what is the DC universe as far as storytelling and just greatness in my eyes. It's still closest to the source material compared to other things we've had, like the Arrowverse, like the movies, stuff along those lines. So if anyone, ever wants to get into like the true origins of like Batman villains, Superman villains, or even the Justice League, I always refer them to these animated series because I think they're great. And I'm excited for this new Batman comic based off the animated series to come into fruition. Comes out April digitally, but then May it's going to be actually published. So now this comic is going to fill in more of the gaps that the comic series The Lost Years did, because in regular Batman continuity, you had Dick Grayson as the first Robin, then there was Jason Todd, then there was Tim Drake, and in the animated series, it seemed like they kind of combined Tim Drake and Jason Todd, gave Tim Drake more of Jason Todd's origins, is what it is, and just, put the name Tim Drake on him. With this, is going to be interesting to see how they fit Jason Todd in there, given the fact that we kind of know from the comic books in the Lost Years what happens from Nightwing to Tim Drake, or so we think we know. There might be a Jason Todd somewhere in there. Not quite sure. I guess we'll just have to wait and see about that. Also adding Azrael in there. I mean, I just finished, reading Sean Murphy's Batman Curse of the White Knight. Great series. Both of them are just great reads. And, this one heavily featured Azrael, so that got me excited. And then Deathstroke, someone who really, in all purposes, is very much an equivalent to Batman as far as his physical skill set and also his intelligence. He always would make a good adversary for Batman, especially since there were rumors that Joe Manganiello, who played Deathstroke in the post-credit scene in Justice League, they were setting him up to be a villain in the Ben Affleck Batman script that he wrote that never happened. One day I'd love to find some script notes on that somewhere, but in any event, guys, I'm excited for this comic because we get to dive more into this animated world that I thought was rich of stories and characters, and again, something from my childhood, me growing up, that I hold dear. So if I can step back into there just for a little bit, I think it's great. And given the fact that it is going to be done by some of the original people that wrote the animated series, I'm expecting quality work, because even the comic books that were spun off from the animated series, like Batman Adventures, like the Batman and Robin Adventures, those were actually interesting. I mean, I still find them very interesting. I might actually have to go back and read them now. I never checked out any of the Superman ones based off the animated series. Might go back and do that. I guess, with this story and the fact that I've been bouncing around the animated cartoons these last week or two, I might have to go and read some of the comics. Batman Beyond has grown, I think, beyond the animated series, or at least the comic books, because he's now a regular part of Batman continuity. If you read the current Batman Beyond comic books, his little brother has actually went on to be Robin, too, which is, again, an interesting story arc. And then it's just good stuff, guys. I mean, like I said, I think this is quality, probably the best rendition of the DC Universe outside the comic books. So if you haven't checked out any of this, I always recommend, kind of like how I recommend the X-Men animated series, where someone looking to get into X-Men, I always recommend starting off with the animated series, because it gives you a good base of the story, all the characters, stuff like that. And then from there, you can start off usually with like Jim Lee's X-Men #1 that came out in the 90s, and go from there. Or, you can jump even further ahead, maybe to like Onslaught or something like that, and be okay. Same thing with this. You can watch the Batman animated series, Superman, Justice League, and then jump right into any DC comic and know exactly kind of what's going on as far as the characters, the heroes, some of the stories, stuff like that, guys. But what do you think? Are you planning on checking out this Batman The Adventure Continues? Or are you just going to skip it? Were you a fan of the animated series? What do you think about bringing in Jason Todd? Do you think maybe they shouldn't do that, given how they transitioned so well from Dick Grayson to Tim Drake? Fire back, of course, on the social media groups and Gmail account. Let me know what you think. And that's going to be it for me today, guys. Like I said, I'm going to go see Sonic the Hedgehog tonight. I'll try to get a little review out tomorrow before I go to work. You can find me personally, Slim Dayspring 12 on Twitter and Instagram. That's it, guys. Go out. Hopefully you have a great day, a great week. And until next time, may the Force be with us all.